Joshua, Akhil, Andrew, Daniel, Diane, Darren, colleagues, it's a delight for me to be amongst your number tonight, and I'm very forcibly struck by the truly inspiring atmosphere on this occasion. It's sometimes difficult to be at the tail end because you've been sitting through a great deal, and despite the eloquence and the sincerity of the speeches that you've heard, you could be forgiven for tiring a bit, save for the fact of the sheer authenticity of everything that you've witnessed and the passion with which it's been delivered, together with the simple inspiration that we all derive from seeing come to the platform to receive the plaudits that their efforts and talents so obviously warrant from you. I am very struck by what you've achieved, and I'm conscious both of people in this room well known to me and of others less so. And perhaps I can just say this by way of tribute to Diane. I don't want this to be a mutual admiration society, but I do believe in telling the truth as I see it. And I also think, as I think Tom said at the outset of his speech by implication, we often forget or decline to say thank you. And we probably ought to say thank you rather more often than we do. And I certainly want to say thank you to Diane. For everything that she has done, is doing, and will go on to do in future years. It is, I think I'm right in saying, a track year record of 14 years of commitment to London schools and the black child. And knowing Diane as I've come to know her over the last 17 years, I know for sure one thing, and that is that once she's got an idea and she knows its merit, she grips it like a dog grips a bone. And that is what you need. It's no good just having an idea and pursuing it in a gentle sort of fashion. Somebody once said to me that the difference between politics and academe, I'm not sure that this is quite true, but it has a certain sort of symmetry to it. In academe, if you can show your opponent once that he or she is in error, at least by academic standards, in accordance with the rules of academic discourse, that person who is erroneous will admit error and seek to refashion his or her thesis and perhaps undertake further research and so on. Whereas in politics, it's not enough to be right once. You have to go on and on and on. Quantity, persistence, and above all, repetition are at least as important as the quality of your cause. So Diane, having focused on the cause of raising the achievement levels and future aspirations of Britain's black and minority ethnic children, has resolved to go on showcasing the cause and bolstering it year after year after year. And for that vision and commitment, she deserves the biggest round of applause of anybody here present. Ladies and gentlemen, I must admit that it is a joy for me to have come along and seen Sol Campbell, whom I've always admired. He did, in the course of an illustrious career, play for a number of clubs, including Derby rivals in London. But I want to gloss over some of those periodic departures from the course of virtue on which his career was embarked, and to focus instead on those two spells, one I think of 5 years and the other rather shorter, in which he played for the team of which I am proud myself to be a season ticket holder, namely the Arsenal Football Club. I was there with my son on Tuesday night, and it was a joy to see Arsenal playing top-quality football once again, of a kind that Sol would regularly recognise. And Bonnie Greer and I don't know each other, although, of course, I know her from a distance and admire her greatly. But look, let me just say a very, very small number of things. First of all, you won't expect me to engage in false modesty, and I've rarely been accused of modesty or understatement, I'm afraid. But what I say to you, and Rose, the Reverend Rose Hunterson-Wilkin, knows me probably as well as anybody in this room. She knows what I say is what I mean. I was a competent school student, but I was not an exceptional one. I was myself not a top-of-the-class person. Of a class of 30, I was around 7. Now, I suspect probably Mallory and Steve and Bonnie and AJ and Tom and a great many other people were rather higher in the echelon of their class. I was around 7 out of 30, a bit higher in English and a bit lower in subjects like maths. I got by, and I wasn't a bad pupil, and I worked reasonably hard, and I had skills in English and advocacy, and I was always enthusiastic about debate and so on, and as I say, poor at maths and the sciences, and rather inclined to turn away from things that I wasn't very good at and to focus exclusively on what I enjoyed and thought I could excel in. So that's where I'm coming from, but I didn't get 10 or 11 O-levels, as they then were. I think if memory serves me, I got about half a dozen, and I managed to get my A-levels. They weren't great, and I decided I had to do a bit better, and I taught myself an A-level in 5 months and had a bit of tuition and managed to scrape into university. My late father, God bless his cotton socks, always said that I should enjoy my school days because they were the happiest days of my life. Well, look, I don't want to disclose some terrible, hitherto closely guarded secret. I bear no physical or emotional scar from my school days, but they weren't for me the happiest days of my life at all. But the 3 years I spent at Essex University, where I had fantastic tutors and inspiring courses and great socialization, have lasted with me to this day. And for those years and those opportunities, I've always been incredibly grateful. You guys have excelled big time, and I admire that. And much has been said about what you've achieved, and I just want to reflect on the fact that some of you have experienced, as we've heard very movingly testified to this evening, real adversity in the course of undergoing your assignments and reaching your goals. So that rather suggests to me that you are people of considerable mettle in any case. But if it doesn't cast a pall over proceedings, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps I can just reflect on one other fact, and that is that inevitably, however brilliant you are and capable you have proved, and ambitious you might be, and likely to attain those goals, no, certain to attain those goals, though we all are on your behalf, you'll probably have some setbacks. Because that's life, and it would be ridiculous if I said it was going to be an onward and upward trajectory without a single misfortune or hiccup on the way. And I think, as Rose once said to me, it's not the fact of an awkward or difficult situation that really matters. It is how you handle it, whether you sink into a pit of misery and despair, or whether you just resolve, as Churchill did, forgive me using this old expression rather blunt, in difficult times to KBO. And that was Churchill's lifelong motto, KBO, keep buggering on, whatever the adversity you face. And I hope I can be forgiven, as tennis is my sporting passion, ladies and gentlemen, and I was a competent junior player for a few years, no more than that, for highlighting to you guys and girls, brilliant winners tonight, the experience of one of my tennis heroes from the 1950s, who was a Mexican-American player called Pancho Gonzalez, one of the greatest tennis players of all time. Now, Gonzalez, by all accounts, I didn't meet him, and he died in 1995, was a difficult and truculent individual who tended to want things his own way. He was a bit of a loner. He wasn't the most popular guy on the world tour, but he was one hell of a player, I think world professional champion for 8 years. Why do I bother mentioning him to you? Because Gonzalez was above all, not only hugely talented, but the most tenacious fighter probably that the sport has ever known. When he was beyond his best, he played at Wimbledon in '69, age 41. And in an early round, he played an American guy who was a good player, a very good player, but not a great player, called Charlie Pasarell. And Gonzalez was 41 years old, which is way past the peak for a professional tennis player, then and certainly now. And he lost the first set, 22 games to 24 in the days before tiebreak. And he was pretty annoyed and down on himself and down on everybody. And he said the match should be stopped for bad light, and the umpire said, no, play on. And the tournament referee, whom he summoned to appeal to, said, no, play on. And he virtually tanked in the second set, which Gonzalez very rarely did. He virtually threw the second set away. He was so annoyed. And he lost it 6-1. And he went off to booze. And they came back the following day. And Gonzalez clawed and fought and thought and struggled his way back into that match from 2 sets down. And he won the third set 16-14. And he won the fourth set 6-3. And the fifth set went the distance. And twice on his own serve, he was love 43 match points down. And twice he came back and saved the match. And he had a further match point against him. And eventually Gonzalez won the match 11-9 in the fifth set. And he went off to cheers. And at the end, an interviewer said to him, well, Pancho, in a remarkable career, at the age of 41, that was one hell of a recovery to come back from 2 sets down and 7 match points in total. But surely when Charlie had you at that disadvantage, and when you were facing all those match points, surely you thought Charlie had you beaten. To which Gonzalez, without a pause for breath or a moment's hesitation, replied, hell no, I just thought Charlie was being stubborn. Well, I'm stubborn too. And so the principle here is to get on and thrive and reach your goals. You need inspiration, of course you do, but you also need perspiration, unrelenting, unremitting, unstoppable effort, grit, and determination in the face of the odds to say, I will succeed. And as is very obvious to you, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a black role model. And I haven't achieved the things at school that you did. But I do remember once, when I decided to stand for speaker because I thought I could make a contribution, one of my very senior colleagues looking at me rather glacially and saying to me, John, you can stand, but you'll lose. And I said to him, well, that may be. Maybe I'll lose. But there's no shame in losing. What you don't want is never to have tried, to be too scared to have a go. And I'm glad I did have a go, and I have no plans to die tomorrow, but if I do die tomorrow, I shall die happy, feeling that I've been very lucky. Now, I think you lot are going to be more than lucky. I think you are going to reach for and attain the stars. I congratulate you on everything you have done. Thank you so much for coming along in such numbers and such buoyant spirits to testify to the perspiration and inspiration of our successful students. And in closing, I reiterate again, thanks to Diane, because Diane is the sort of person, writ large, who has an idea and she translates it from conception to execution. And it is to her that we owe an undying debt of gratitude. Thank you very much.